This is not quite dead. Episode 38. Mirrors.
What is this?
The point.
What?
I am Alfie Dillon, and I am not quite dead.
What are you talking about?
You started making recordings for a reason. It was because something was happening, something awful, and you wanted to leave a piece of yourself behind, none?
I guess.
You say it is a eulogy? You claim it is for the purpose of there being one source of truth that will outlast you. You preserve moments of fear and love. You keep them here. That is what you do.
Why?
From what I have heard, that answer changes every time you sit down. How many hours of straight silence have you recorded of the inside of the lab, just in case there was some sound of disturbance? The reason for that is different than when you sat down the first time. Different again when you chose to record what we did to Tim.
I don't know what you're saying.
You did not know if Casper was dead or not when you started, and there was still a point for you to keep going. To go on, to try, and to leave a record.
I tried to be a vampire because it was the only way to save him.
None. You bit him.
So?
Mon coeur.
I know what you want.
I imagine that you do.
I can't.
My love, we cannot leave the house as a mausoleum. If that is your end goal, okay. But all of your medical records are there. Your stash of phones, your laptop. I don't want to leave him there. I would like to set him in the ground. Please.
I don't want to see him.
I can go in first. I can move him. You don't have to see.
I don't want you to move him.
I know. But it is wrong to leave him. It is time. Please. I need this, I think.
I'm not ready.
It has been 3 days.
I'm sorry.
A few nights away, nobody will notice. But if there is even a chance that Bonham and his cronies know where we are, they will come if we do not go to him soon.
So? He's dead. What does it matter if they come?
Alfie, you have not finished sorting through those notes. There are hundreds of hours of recordings in that house. We can't abandon them.
None of that matters anymore.
This is not just about you. I need you to understand this. It is not about you. And it has not been for a long time. It is about all of us now. Vampires, you are right. Something has to change, and it had already started to change, in part as a consequence of your actions.
I didn't mean to do that.
Lies.
Leave me alone.
Get up off the floor.
No.
Perhaps I should just lift you.
I'll tear out your fucking throat.
Really? Is that so? I'd love to see you try.
Just leave me alone.
I can't.
Why not?
Please, Alfie, get up off the floor. You cannot stay there. We have things to do and we need to hunt. Please.
You go.
Alfie.
Just go. Go. You're good at that.
What?
You're good at walking away when things get difficult.
Excusez-moi. I must have misheard. Did you just accuse me of leaving when things become difficult from your place wedged between the wall and my bed frame, which I've not left for days?
I'm not leaving, I'm staying. That's what I'm telling you.
Physically, yes, but why am I arguing with you? What is the point? How dare you accuse me of abandoning you?
You left me. And you left Casper.
You know nothing about what happened between Casper and I.
And whose fault is that?
His! Casper's! Is now the time for this? Is it really?
I'm still not going anywhere.
Ugh. Alfie!
What?
You don't want to know about this?
I promise you that I really fucking do.
No, you don't.
Fucking tell me!
Fine. If that is what it takes. If this is what will make you understand.
I'm all ears.
I left because he asked me to leave.
What?
He asked me to leave, and so I went.
I don't understand.
What is there to misunderstand? It is a simple concept. You have asked me to leave before, witness me go. The concept of this cannot escape you, surely?
Yeah, but you didn't fucking go, actually, did you? You hung around all weird
And yet, you accuse me of abandoning you.
I felt fucking abandoned.
You asked me to go. I could not risk leaving entirely. I stayed out of your way. What do you want from me? To read your mind and know that when you say to leave, you mean for me to stay?
I didn't mean for you to stay.
So what did you mean?
I don't know, alright? I want you to stop bullshitting me. I want you to treat me like I'm your equal.
You don't care for yourself, and yet you resent me for stepping into help.
The internet. You just decide when I find out about stuff. You're in charge of what I know and when I know it, and that's gross.
Alas, there is no collected history of Neige le Vampire. I'm sorry.
I know that it's not your fault that you've lived so long and have so much shit to disclose, but you fucking editorialise.
Doesn't everyone?
I mean, yeah, I guess, but you leave out stuff that's important. You leave out things you shouldn't. There are gaps in what I understand that don't need to be there, and they're there because of you. You could answer so many questions, but you don't. You just don't.
You don't understand that there is no proper time for this information to come to you, and it won't help you. All it will do is make you feel worse. You do not need to know this. Why won't you trust me about it?
I can't. You won't answer my question. You asked me to take you at your word whilst you're doing the shadiest shit possible. Whatever you think, it will help me to know this, okay? Casper is... He's fucking... He's a corpse. And I've been lying with him, holding him, and I need to understand why you walked away from him.
I told you. He asked me to.
You're driving me fucking insane. Is this what happened with him too? You just annoyed him so much that eventually he told you to fuck off because he couldn't stand what you were doing. But you still couldn't commit, so you just kind of lurked around like an annoying ghost. Neige. Hey. Neige. Neige. I'm sorry.
Please do not touch me.
Shit. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cross a line. I didn't even know there was a fucking line there. I'm sorry.
It was not like that.
No. Just ignore me. Yeah, I'm angry. It's not just you. It's not your fault.
Some of it is, but no, I am answering your question. I did not push him to the point that he sent me away from him like that. It wasn't the same.
Oh.
Your life was marked by a kind of disquiet, even before his turning. When I met him, he fell into my arms with a kind of enthusiasm that is rare. There was a look in his eye, something pushing me, testing me. I think he hated vampires because that's what he was. There is no cure which is not certain death for us, but even if there were, if the changes could be unwritten, then it would not have fixed what was wrong with Casper, because he did not want to fix the fact that he was a vampire, whatever he said. What he wanted to fix was the fact that he was himself.
He didn't need fixing.
I know that. I know. But the point is not what you and I know to be true, but what he believed. You lived with him for months. You knew him well enough to know that I'm right.
So, why would you leave him when he was in that state? He was vulnerable,
He was fucked up, that's what he was. He needed to work on his shit, but he wasn't there. He couldn't be there, and I can't sit in that space with him. I would dive to the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean with him, sift through tears and shouting, anything. But that is not how it manifested. That is not how it was. He hated vampires because he hated himself, and he was fucking me, the oldest vampire, the vampire that so many vampires fear. Vampire killer. He loved that contradiction, the allure of the myth about my blood. All of the reasons it upset me were the reasons he was fascinated. It hurt so much to be close to that kind of energy, like you would not believe. He loved me with what felt at times like a singular focus, but it was not. It was not a love that gives. It was a love that wanted, that could only ever hunger, never be satisfied. Sometimes I would think we had reached a stage where he would begin to change, but there was always more space to pour myself into. The gaps inside of Casper were vast and expanding.
Sometimes it felt like loving me was hurting him.
Yes.
So, why did you go when he asked you to go? And how did you... I know how that can be sometimes with things like that. They have a way of getting anchors in you.
He went too far. If he had not asked, I would still have stayed despite that, but he told me to go. So I did.
What did he do that went too far?
He told you about Romania, about the coal shed. He did not tell you why he was there.
What?
After we started spending time together, I took him travelling. We came back when some friends noticed some suspicious things happening at the edges of cities all over Europe. There were times when we were away together that I felt maybe could be coaxed out of that gloom, but we came back, and that chance seemed to die in the wind. We found so many half-maids in such strange places, some of them mangled in ways which were clearly deliberate.
Someone put them there on purpose? Henri?
We. So at the time, Gaspar wondered if he had made a mistake years before. There was a vampire in Siberia he had killed. She had been doing similar experiments on half-maids, you see. He drained her dry, burned her remains, but he was so worried he'd somehow left her alive. He told me he thought he understood what the vampires were doing. This upset me.
Because of fucking Claudio?
Oui.
Fuck Claudio.
Alfie, you are angry at him.
After what he did? How he hurt you? Of course I'm fucking angry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gaspar, he was repulsed by what he was, by what he hungered for, but at once he was seduced by it, and by me, by my lack of shame or fear of myself. We were drunk with each other's company, a passing back and forth of poison-filled kisses. He spat his name for me like a curse, screamed it like a prayer. I whispered his like it was a fucking obituary. It ate me. It ate at him. I wanted to consume and be consumed. He wanted to live and to die, all at once. I wanted to show him everything I had seen. I wanted him to see the beauty in the world, and I would sit and watch him sketch it out, but never felt it touch his heart. I would fuck him, and he'd cry. He'd cry and cry, and I'd hold him and I'd keep him safe from both of us and the world beyond. I showed him all my secret places, sunken ships in the tropics, the ruins of towns in the jungles of the Amazon, old trails across sandy desert, known only by snakes and the wildebeest and me. We would go and he would smile, but he was a ghost, and though I could touch his hand, his face, his lips, there was no substance to him. How could we be dead, my love? I asked him. I feel so alive, I said. I don't feel alive, he answered. And I believed him. He didn't seem it, not really. He was a ghost. As things got more bizarre in my attempts to figure out why vampires were disappearing, why we kept finding half-maids in abandoned mine shafts, missing limbs, or with their organs removed, Gaspar withdrew. He would take weeks-long trips, told me he was looking for a friend. I followed him sometimes, checked he was safe, but he made himself difficult to find even for me. One day he arrived at my house in Normandy, announcing he had found his friend. That friend was Bonhomme. I know now that Bonhomme was fucked in the fucking head, but I did not know it then. All I knew then was that Gaspar was asking for subjects to study. He said to me, I want to understand what we are. So I say, fine, incredible. Understand, study. I will bring you half-maids. I will help you find somewhere for you to work. I will make sure that you are undisturbed. Perhaps I would kill the madness in his heart, I thought, because I know what I am. I am not dead. None. So surely if he studied, if he looked, then he would see. But none. He did not see this. His letters to me were increasingly obscure, and whenever I would suggest that I would come to visit, he would say that he would come to me instead. Let's meet in Paris, he would say, and I would not refuse him because Paris is a fine city and I have friends there, friends whose company Gaspar enjoys. See others, I say, and I say to him, Gaspar, darling, please bring your friend with you, this Bonhomme. Bring him to Paris and let me speak with him, and let him speak with Henri. I'm sure there is much for you to share. No, Gaspar says, Bonhomme cannot, he is too busy, he does not wish to speak with Henri. How strange, I would think. At the time, all I knew was that Henri was studying half-maids just the same as Bonhomme and Gaspar were. Their purposes were different, and so were their hypotheses, but they would have knowledge to share, I was so sure. But no, not once was my invitation to Bonhomme accepted in a decade. Bonhomme never came to Paris, not that I know. But Gaspar did. Every time I saw him, things grew more and more strained. And then that fucking book. What Mr. Stoker knew of vampires I do not know, but it compelled Gaspar so. And he was so fucking convinced that it had some kernel of truth that off he went to the Romanian hills. Off he went to find them, to find fucking... Who knows what he expected, truly. And this Bonhomme, his influence on Gaspar, the things he told him. I've never been worried that Gaspar would turn into his maker, that the rot that addled Antoinette's brain, inherited from Claudio, would ever spread to him. He killed her of his own volition, despite being raised in a way that told him he was superior, despite being a favourite, despite all of that. Still, he killed her in the service of what he thought was right. My folly, of course, was thinking that this would make him immune to all other nonsense. The idea that we are corpses, that we are dead, despite being thinking, feeling beings, despite the fact I loved him, despite the fact that he loved me, that I was so sure that passion of youth, vision clouded by inexperience and a life filled with yet more hardships than even most vampires have to suffer through. He was so good and he was so smart, and I did not think he wanted to die. So I let him do what he needed to do, thinking he would eventually, finally come to realize he was not awful. He was okay. Just okay. Normal. He could say he was a vampire and understand that this was a morally neutral statement of fact. How could he not reach this point, I thought? He knew me. He had spent time in my company. He was not afraid of what I was. Though he did think perhaps my blood had some property that the blood of younger vampires didn't. This seemed to be born out of some misguided notion of aging, as though my blood were a fine wine, fortified and becoming more potent with age, rather than because I was some kind of messiah. So I would shadow him, you know. If he made a trip and didn't mention it to me, I would follow him. He must have known this. He must have been aware. I rescued him from that fucking coal shed, and that wretched idiot who got himself thrown in there before Casper, pathetic little man he was too, snivelling at my feet in gratitude. Went through all that trouble to save him, only to realise he was carrying some legacy of Claudio in him. To have him look at me with wide eyes and call me Snowblood, and say he was doing my work when he killed those fucking children. In my name, dead. The fucking audacity. So I drank him dry, smashed his skull until his contents were a smear on the ground. Casper watched me with dead eyes. A ghost. They worship you and you deny them, he said. I said, I never asked for fucking exaltation, because I haven't. He asked if I would deny him, if he were to say he had found the truth, an answer for what we are, and the solution for how it could be undone. Would I smite him like I smote that vampire from the coal shed? I told him the truth. I told him if he was gripped by that sickness, that malign sense of resolution, if he would dare to fucking invoke my name as a dedication to murder and torture and suffering, then yes, he would have to fucking answer to me. And if when I came to see what he had done and hear him out, if then his best answer was to scream and call me 2 hairs shy of God, I would fucking kill him. And I would be glad to. You want to make me a god? I will be your fucking god. Neige, do not. Do not. Casper told me he did not think I was a god. He said he thought I was a monster, and that it wasn't my fault. But that maybe there was some way to cure both of us so that we could live again. My darling, I said. What do you think I've been doing for all these many years if not living? He could not answer. It felt like being torn to shreds inside. Like he had reached into my chest and pulled apart my lungs, and I was spitting blood instead of speaking when I told him that I loved him. He said he loved me too, and then he asked me to go, so I went. Fuck. We spoke now and then after this. He came to me in Paris right before I killed Henri. He asked me then to take his life. Said if I would not do it, he would go to Henri. Henri, I thought. Why would Henri agree to this? He and Casper had spoken in letters, but they were not close. Why not ask his friend in England, Bonham? They had stopped their work, Casper told me, ideological differences. Casper told me that Henri had said he could help Casper. That he could cure him. That is madness, I told him so, but it was more than it at first appeared to be. Casper had written to Henri. Bonham was certain that Casper's hypothesis was madness, that it could not be done, that the technology did not exist. But Henri had developed this manual pump for blood infusion, and Casper thought maybe they could make it work.
These developments are happening decades before they were ever used in human medicine. Do you know that? Are you aware of
You're
this?
not listening to me.
What aren't I listening to?
It was Casper's hypothesis that if you could swap out all of the blood fast enough, you could effectively cure vampirism by displacement.
You think this is why Cass and Bonham stopped speaking? Because Bonham wouldn't agree to Casper's insane plan?
Henri was very vocal about how it was the centre of the brain he believed integral to the process of the change. On the hypothesis, he and Casper were opposed, but they had agreed to collaborate on this experiment at risk to Casper's life.
And you killed Henri.
I only went to speak with him. There had been signs for months that something was wrong, as I have said already. So many half-maids dropped into wells, with tubes shoved into their arteries, vampire blood nobody recognized being spilled on city streets. Henri had always been so unassuming, so mild-mannered. I only went to him to talk, to make him promise that he would not hurt Casper, that he would not indulge Casper's madness. But I don't know what it was. That day, perhaps it was that I had come unannounced, and so Henri had no time to hide his tracks. But as soon as I walked into the house, I knew that something was wrong. Fear soaked into the carpets, and death seeping through the cracks in the doors. After I subdued Henri, found out what he had done, I went and got Casper. I brought him with me, like one rubs a dog's nose in the mess that it has made. "Look at what you volunteered yourself for," I said, when I showed him the young vampires in Henri's cage. "Look at what he thinks of you." And then I threw Henri to them. Casper was silent as they tore him. When it was done, I let go of him and he stood up. He would not look me in the eye. And then he said to me, "That is what I am." And then he was gone.
Oh.
It was a long time before I saw him again. Decades. But I had noticed traces of him. I first noticed it during the war. A man I met down an alley during the occupation. There was a smell clinging to him. Casper, in his blood. I confronted him. I asked him if he had ever met another being like me. You know what he told me? That he was saved by an angel. He had set a bomb on the railway line, but it had gone off before he had a chance to flee. He was badly burnt and could not move, and he was certain death would come for him, but it didn't. Instead, someone else did.
Casper.
And he gave him the most beautiful wine he had ever tasted. And he healed without even a scar. He said his saviour was an angel. The wine was the real blood of Christ, he said. I found no trace of him in Europe through the war, except in stories and the blood of others. What is the harm in this, I thought? A few dozen more men make it home after all those horrors. But then the war ended, and it carried on. In clubs I would encounter people with the lingering smell of him in their blood. The faintest whisper of the flavour of him mixed into their own. I sought him out. I told him he had to stop. He acted coy, offended, but I had smelled it, his blood in them, and it could not be denied. He promised me he would stop it. But it did not stop. I tried to ignore it. I pretended I did not notice it, until I could not. And then, after so long, he called me.
About me?
Oui.
And you still came to help?
No.
But...
Mon malheur. I heard that call, and within it the echo of that conversation we had had so long before. All of those soldiers, those people he had given his blood to, I do not know, but to me it seemed like they were in need of one thing. Experiments. And now he was calling me back to him. Calling me back to play saviour. I came to York to ask him what he thought of me. I thought I knew the answer. And I will not be a benevolent God.
You came here to kill him, didn't you? No, you didn't. You saved me because you loved him.
I loved him, yes, but that is not why I saved you.
Then why?
I told you already, I saved you because I listened to the tapes. You chose this life. It is a powerful thing, but they also told me I was right. Casper was still experimenting on people.
What? No, he wasn't.
The moment you met him with Linda, and then with...
He didn't.
What else would you call what he did?
No, I see why you think it, but you're wrong. You're wrong.
I'm sorry. Please. Please.
It's not true.
Sorry.
Shut up.
I am sorry.
Nash, why would you say that? Why?
Please.
How could you?
Of course not.
Yes.
Of course, whatever you say, please just... I am wrong. Okay? Just look at me.
I am a vampire. I am a fucking vampire. Why do I feel like I'm having a heart attack? My heart doesn't even fucking do anything. Stop laughing. Stop fucking laughing.
Alfie, I think I'm in love with you.
You really pick your fucking moments.
I'm sorry.
Fuck you. Don't leave. Fuck you.
I will stay.
Not Quite Dead is written, performed and edited by Ira Major under a Creative Commons 4.0 attribution license. You can support the show and get early access to new episodes by going to patreon.com/Hanging Sauce Studios. Live, laugh, bite.